Hi everyone, today I'm going to be cleaning up my sewing room and finally removing the last bit of beauty that I have on my desk. My desk used to only be makeup. It was where I got ready for the day, but this year I've become a sewist and sewing has just taken over completely. This is a really cute hat that I made at a friend's house. We were doing like scrap fabric projects. But yeah, I guess you could say finally removing the last bit of beauty products from my desk is a little bittersweet. Beauty used to be such a huge part of my life and like my everyday, but now sewing is my everyday. And if you have any type of crafting hobby, you know that it just devours your space. Oh, this was an awesome estate sale find. It's some drafting paper. I'll use it to make my own patterns. This is also a recent estate sale find. I got this for $3. Here's a little kitten break. I'm currently fostering these two little boy kittens for my mom. My mom has a cat rescue and I recently started fostering for her just to kind of take some kittens off her plate. This spool rack was a really great estate sale pickup. I've been really wanting to find a better system for my fabrics that I'm currently working with. I definitely want them up and off of the desk, but not put back in my stash. So that was a good solution. Moving on to the rest of my desk and doing some dusting, playing with the baby kitten. Here I'm just kind of loosely sorting scraps from a couple projects that I've done recently, and I ended up keeping these. It's very hard to part with scraps, but I got the majority of my desk cleaned off and now I'm going to start on the pegboard right next to my desk. The pegboard sits in between my sewing machine and my desk, so it's super convenient. This wastebasket is very conveniently located right next to my sewing machine, and I use it to throw thread in there, little fabric clippings, fabric that doesn't really make it into my scraps, and I just ended up tossing that. I do regret it though. I just keep so many scraps that I felt justified in parting with those, and yeah, I just regret doing that. But I just dumped out all of the shelves and little cups on my pegboard, and I'm reorganizing everything. This was long overdue. My favorite way to organize is just to dump and start over. I am not the same person that I was when I originally set this pegboard up, so it's just nice to start over and have a new system. I have a ton of rulers and I hate how they're set up, so I decided to gather all the Omni Grid rulers and tie a ribbon through them. That is one thing about being crafty, is you usually have materials on hand to organize your items. You just need to get creative and you'll most likely find something that works. But this was so much better. My rulers aren't sliding around everywhere anymore. But now it is time to sew. I'm going to be making this fabric basket to help organize some of the fabric scraps that are on my desk. I have been in great need of one of these. I have a few larger fabric baskets that I made that I keep around my office. But again, if you're crafty, you can most likely make whatever organization solutions you need. Right now I'm just going through all of my larger scrap pieces, pulling out pieces that I want to include in my patchwork. This is going to be a scrappy project because what better way to hold my scraps than a scrappy basket? Also, yes, this is a pair of underwear that didn't become a pair of underwear. One thing about being a thrifty sewist is you end up inheriting a lot of unfinished projects from other people. I believe that underwear came in a scrap bag that I bought from Facebook, so it was a bunch of random stuff and that was in it. But I've just been ironing all of these scrap pieces, getting them nice and smoothed out. I cut up this like awkward shaped scrap that I had to kind of make the pieces a little bit more manageable. I felt like I gathered up a lot of good scraps for this project, but my scrap bag did not feel any lighter. If you have other scrappy project ideas for me, let me know because I really want to use these up. When I do my scrappy patchwork, I like to take the pieces of scraps that are kind of already pretty normally shaped and just freshen up the edges a bit. So I'll take my ruler and I'll take my rotary cutter and cut off the uneven bits, the bits that are fraying, and I try to leave as much of the fabric on as possible. Patchwork like this, where all the pieces are different sizes, I end up doing a lot of cutting as I go. So I'll patch something together and then I'll cut things more to size, but I do like to make sure that I cut a few pieces to get me started. So now I'm just kind of looking at what I have and seeing what pieces would fit together to start off with. And this is definitely the fun part for me because I end up just kind of doing it as I go. I'm starting out with 2 pieces that ended up being the same exact size. For scrappy patchwork like this, I will do reverse stitching on both ends. Usually if all the patchwork pieces are the same size, like if I'm working with squares, I'll just do a chain stitch, but something like this I'm not really able to do too much of a chain stitch. Pretty much the entire time I'm doing something like this, I am patchworking things together and then bringing that back to my desk and finding a piece that fits and then patching those together. My desk and my sewing machine are really close together, so it makes it super easy. I also do a lot of cutting as I go, so I'm cutting a piece for the patchwork that will perfectly fit in the spot that I need it to fit, and just kind of go from there. I think scrappy patchwork is a great practice. It's a good way to use what you have. For me too, a lot of these fabrics have like memories and moments associated with them, so it's really nice to reflect and also kind of bring all those moments together. At this point, I'm pretty far into the patchwork. I just have a few more things to stitch together and my front panels will be complete. If you're curious about the size, these are 8 by 14. I wanted the basket to be kind of long but shorter. A lot of height will be lost when we box the corners, and I just think that the size of the basket works really well for something that you keep on top of the desk. I honestly could use a few more of these baskets. I also made one for my windowsill, and that area is just way more organized and tidy now. Before it was like kind of being used as a catch-all. So now I have all of those catch-all items in a really cute basket. I definitely want to make a larger basket too. The ones that I use from my office, they're like floor baskets. I'm pretty sure I did like 22 by 22 squares for those and then did like 5-inch box corners or something. They're just super simple to make and you can make them whatever size you want. I pretty much iron as I go the entire time my iron is on. I am ironing seams, I'm ironing the panels, making sure everything is flat and neat. But now that the outer panels are done, I'm going to start working on the lining, and I'm also doing a scrappy lining. It just makes sense. Like, I don't need to use full-size fabric pieces when I can scrap them together and make a size that works. I did use larger size scrap pieces for the lining though, so I didn't spend a ton of time doing the patchwork again. But I sewed the lining off camera, and now I am trying to iron on some fusible fleece batting. I don't know, it wasn't sticking. I thought I had it on the glue side, but I also didn't check the other side because I'm lazy, and I just kind of figured, you know, I can just pin it together and it's gonna be fine. But now I'm clipping the outer panels together, pretty sides facing each other, and I'm going to stitch the sides and the bottom and then keep the very top part completely open. Now I'm going to box the corners. I started with 1.5-inch boxes, and this would have made like the width of the box 3 inches. But when I got them cut out and I actually looked at the size of what it would be, it just looked too small. So this just goes to show that you should always start with less, because you can always take away, but you cannot put it back. But the 2-inch boxes ended up working out perfectly. Also, if you haven't boxed corners like this before, I definitely encourage you to give it a go. This is not the method that I started out with. I started out by like pinching the sides together and then sewing a line through and then cutting out the corner, which to me, it just seemed like the safer way to do it, but this is so much better. I feel like you can be so precise with it. It is so much neater, and the corners just get really nice and crisp. Now let's turn this right side out, and we get to admire the cute patchwork pattern now. I love the patchwork that we have going on here. I think that the size is perfect. Moving on to the lining, I did pretty sides together, and I'm doing the same thing that we did to the outer fabrics, just sewing down the sides and the bottom, but leaving the top totally open. And I'm also boxing the corners as well. Now I'm getting the lining and the outer shell ready to sew together. I clip all around the edge, making sure everything is lined up so that everything fits perfectly. I like to make sure that both ends of the seams line up perfectly. And now I'm sewing around the edge, making sure to backstitch at the front, sewing all around, and then also making sure to leave a gap in the middle, making sure to also backstitch right before that gap opening. And now we can pull the outer fabric in through that gap to reveal the basket, and it is so cute. I love it. Now I'm just pinning down the edges, making sure everything is smoothed out, making sure to add extra clips around the gap part so nothing moves around and you can like officially close up that gap. Top stitching here is really important so that the lining and the outer fabric doesn't like shift around and move, and it also just makes it look finished. So here is the basket. You can leave it like this. I choose to roll over the edges. I feel like it kind of makes it a little bit more structured and definitely ends up looking more like a basket. To really polish up this finished basket, I take my iron and I iron the inside, and this also helps flatten out that overlap that we did. But here's the basket all finished. I love how it came out. I think it is the perfect size for a little desk basket, a little basket to catch any scraps that I have, hold any fabrics that I'm currently using for projects. All the fabric pieces that are going in the basket right now, I'm actually going to use to make patchwork fabric bubble letters. I really love patchwork, if you haven't noticed. But here is my desk, all tidy and clean. I can tell you right now, it does not look like this, but it is nice to see it this way. But I love this little corner. This used to be my makeup spot. This used to be my vanity, but now it has transformed into something that brings me so much joy. Thank you all so much for joining me today and making this little basket with me and giving me a reason to clean and organize my sewing space. It was long overdue and it feels so good to have an organized space again. But that is going to be it from me today. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.